Hello and welcome back to Spring tutorial. Today we will be discussing Spring logging. Spring Boot uses commons logging for all internal logging but leaves the underlying log implementation open. Default configuration are provided for Java util logging, log4j2 and logback. In each case, loggers are pre-configured to use console output with optional file output also available. By default, if you use the starters such as Spring Boot starter, logback is used for logging. Appropriate logback routing is also included to ensure that independent libraries that use Java util logging, commons logging, log4j or slf4j all work correctly. So what we are planning to do today? Today we'll try to understand how the log format works in Spring Boot applications. Okay, we'll try to observe the console output. As I said earlier, by default all the logs go on console, but optionally you can also configure file. We'll try to do that. File rotation: if file gets too big, you like to rotate it, otherwise you can have some sort of system problems, right? Your application might not perform if the file size is growing bigger and bigger. So you should be able to control, like, maybe 10 MB, 20 MB, 100 MB. After that, Spring will automatically rotate for you. Okay, log levels: as you know, if you're working in Spring or Java world, you have various levels of log. Error, you have warning, you have debug, trace, info, etc, etc. So we'll try to play with those properties. Log groups: this is a very interesting property. Not many people use this log groups, but it's really powerful stuff, and we'll try to utilize it. Custom log configuration: by default Spring works. Spring is magical, right? But it also gives you power to customize it. We'll try to do some customization, maybe some coloring of various things. We'll try to change the default format, maybe the file location, etc, etc. So first thing first, let's just go back to our Spring Boot application. So I have my application.yaml. This is my Spring Boot application, as we have been working through in previous tutorials. So let's start our application first, and let's just try to understand what all these various values mean. Okay, so first thing you see over here is date and time. It's precise to millisecond. Okay, so you have your year, you have month, you have date, you have your hour, minute, second, and you have your milliseconds. All right, then you have your log level: error, warn, info, debug, or trace. This is your process ID. Okay, then you have 3 dashes after that, basically. So it's simply saying now the main logging starts. Okay, the dynamic logging starts. Over here you have your thread name. Okay, main over here, because I just started my application, it enclosed in square brackets by default. Then you have your logger name, right? This is usually the source class name, and often abbreviated, because sometimes the package names can be really large, and Spring Boot by default try to limit to whatever the 50-60 characters over here. So as you can see, it always try to give you the full class name. Okay, but if it notices, like, the whole size is going beyond 60-70 character, whatever that default value is, it will start kind of truncating or abbreviating your package names. Okay, so if you're just seeing, for example, OSBAE, it's probably like coming from I don't know, maybe org, Spring framework, etc. If you'd like to really see it, if I just try to see this file, say include non, yeah, org, Spring framework, boot, activate, endpoint web. Okay, boot, activate, endpoint web. Okay, that's good stuff. And then at the end, after this colon, you have your actual log message, which you print in your application. Make sense? By default, again, many things are by default. When you start your Spring Boot application, it typically prints prints errors, it prints warns, and it prints info. If you like to print debug when your application is starting, you can go to your application.yaml, you can simply say debug equal to true or debug equal to on. Just remember one thing, this debug is for internal Spring libraries only, such as Spring Boot libraries, Hibernate, or maybe other internal libraries which Spring is using. This is not controlling your application's log level. There is another property to do that. We'll take a look in a second. So if I just put debug equal to true, just notice over here at the bottom, so far we have been seeing info because there is no error, there is no warn. If I put debug equal to true and if I restart my application, what you will notice, now we have started to get debug level entries as well. Okay, so this is how you control it. You can put it into your application .yaml, or you can specify that parameter if you are starting Spring Boot from command prompt. What you can do is you can simply say java -jar your application jar space -- debug. Okay, and your application will start in debug mode. Okay, let's get rid of that. We don't need that. Typically you don't need it. Stop our application. What's the second thing we want to do? Let's just try to go to file output. Okay, as I said previously, everything by default goes on the console. You can, however, tell Spring that you like to output into a file as well. So there are two ways of doing it. One, let's just put something over here. You can say logging logging dot file name and path. There are two things. Let's start with path first. Okay, if you just give logging file path, what Spring will do, it will go to that path and it will create a default Spring log file. Okay, you can however give your own file name as well, which we'll take a look in a second. So path, let's just simply say tmp, and we can go to a folder called sagu. Okay, and that's about it. So if I open a console over here, cd tmp, sorry, somebody in my previous video said they don't like green color, so I'm gonna open something in black over here. Okay, so it's much more visible, and let's just try to increase the font as well. Okay, so let's go to cd tmp sagu folder over here. Okay, and the directory does not exist. What Spring will do, it will automatically try to create the directory for us. Hopefully it will do. So let's just say logging file path tmp sagu, and let's start our application. Okay, our application started successfully, which means it didn't complain. It has right to create this directory. So if I now try to do cd tmp sagu, hopefully perfect, I'm able to go in there. If I say ls-l, there is my file spring.log. It did not exist before, it just created at 7:14. Okay, that's the time, 7:14. So what do we have in the spring.log? So let's just say get spring.log, and whatever you see in your console at the bottom, as you can see in the background, same thing will be now printed or written into this file. Really good stuff. You didn't have to do anything, you just had to specify the file. So as you notice, by default what Spring did, it created a file called spring.log. Now I don't like this name. Okay, let's say I have running quite a few applications. I like to give slightly different. Our tutorial probably is what is it, like I think we were building some sort of e-shop. So what I can do is I can say spring.file.name. okay, and name basically takes your path, as well as, actually you can specify path and then the file name. Let's try both things. So if I just simply say eshop.log, if I do that in one line, I can specify the path as well as my file name. Okay, now if I restart my application, Spring will start to write into this file. Good stuff. Let's just come back, run ls minus once again. Let's just put cls before it. Okay, so as you can see over here, now we got eshop.log file created for us. Good stuff. Okay, you can play with, like, having path separately and the file name. I hope it works. If it doesn't work, name is there for you. Now, what was the next item in the list? File rotation. Okay, as I said, by default, Spring, if you by the way, if you configure this option, i.e. you like to have a logging file, by default, whenever the file size is 10 MB, Spring will rotate for you, and it's gonna keep for 7 days or something like that. I think there are some default values you can read on the Spring doc. If, however, you like to either reduce the size or increase the size, you can do that. How to do it? You simply go back to your application.yaml. So let's just leave this bit over here. You say logging log back max file size. The beauty of IntelliJ is it can actually show you quite a few things. As you can see over here, it's saying by default max file size is 10 megabytes. Let's just click on that, and what we can do for our testing purposes, I can say 5 KB, because I'm not writing a lot of stuff, so hopefully that should do the job for me. Also, what I can do is I can say debug equal to true. Reason why I'm doing that, so I can literally create a lot of content to start with. Come back over here. Let's just empty everything in this folder. Remove asterisk. Okay. So we don't have anything at the moment. Yeah, my directory is empty. Now if I restart my application, let's see what happens. Okay, my application started successfully. If I go back to my console, if I say ls minus l, you can see it's eshop.log, and it should have rotated, but why is it not doing it? Maybe still probably it's not 5 KB. So what we can do is, let's just try to put some additional content. Let's just say for integer I equals 0, I less than, I don't know, 100, I plus plus, s out. To start with s out for now. Okay, we'll this is just a message, and let's just print a message number. Okay, so I hope this should be enough to have multiple files. If I come back over here, oh, perfect. Yeah, so I think the previous content or the data which we are putting on our console was not enough to reach that threshold. So what happened over here? As soon as Spring noticed that the file size has increased the threshold which we have specified over here, it archived the previous log file and have started the new one. Good stuff. A few more things are available, and I'm just going to show you, but we don't need to go to each and every option. If I just do control and space, you can see you have a rolling policy maximum file size, which we tried. You can have a file name pattern as well. So by default we saw it has a file name, it has the timestamp, and it has the number, sequentially it's going to increase, and then it's zipping it. If you want, you can change any of the things over here which are appearing. Another thing, you have the third option, clean history on start. Okay, so what it simply means is, let's say your application is running for, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 days, and then it created a lot of archive stuff. If you want Spring to clean everything at startup, you can turn this flag on. This is a boolean, as you can see on the content. Maximum history, by default I think it keeps 7 days. Oh yeah, but not, yeah, you can see over here. If you like to keep it for longer period, 10 days, 15 days, whatever your data retention policy is, you can simply configure that number over here. 1 day, 10 days, 20 days, who knows, right? Total size cap, total size of log backups to be kept. Okay, very simple stuff. So you can play with all these things. I'm just trying to demonstrate that what various options are available. Let's just move on so we can undo this bit, i.e. let's just delete it. We don't need it. We don't also need the logging file name. Okay, so we are back to normal. What was the next thing we wanted to do? Next thing we want to do is log levels. Yeah, all the supported logging systems can have the logger level set in the Spring environment. Okay, which is our application YAML, by using the logging level. Okay, let's just try to do that. So in the logging you have, let's say logging, then you can say level, and what you can do is you can say root is probably error. What does that mean? So when Spring Boot started, okay, that's basically called root. You're saying when Spring application starts, how do you want it to print the logs? Okay, by default it's printing warn, info, and error. If you don't like info and all these things which were printed in the beginning, if I show you, okay, if I just go back at the top, if you don't even want this info to be printed, because sometimes it can be very noisy stuff, you can tell Spring to only print if there are errors at startup. Make sense? Let's start our application. What you will notice at this time, our application has started very silently. Okay, forget about this. This is just a message because we are printing manually over here. System.out.println, it doesn't have a logging level. Okay, so it's just printing on the console. So what you notice over here, our Spring Boot application started very quietly. It did not print info, warn, etc. And this is how you control it. Another thing you can do is, now we are going to the main bits. Okay, if you like to control logging level of your application, or even at the class level, what you can do is, you should not be using sysout, by the way. Okay, you have to use logger. So if I come back to my products application, this is how I have kind of created instance of a logger interface. Over here you can see logger factory.getLogger, you pass the class name. Now you get the flexibility to tell Spring or your logger at what level you'd like to print your messages. So I'm simply going to say log dot, let's start with info. Okay, and I hope you know that you can pass as a parameter rather than concatenating the string, because that's much more performant, much better, because things will be evaluated later on, not right away. If I do that and if I start my application, okay, let's see what happens. Nothing printed. Why nothing printed? Because we told Spring to print only if you see error messages. Now you must be wondering, if I change info over here, everything will just go on info, right? I don't want to do that. What I do not want, I want Spring or startup to only print at error level, but I would like to have a fine-grained control for my class. What my class is? Products application, and I want Spring to print at info level for my class. How do you do that? You come back over here. So root is root, controlling the whole thing. Over here we need to give the package name plus the class name. Okay, so I'm simply going to copy my package name over here. Now two things you have to remember. You can give at package level, and it could be as deep as maybe very last package, or it can be parent level, or you can actually go to a very class level as well. Okay, so if you want, you can actually give the class name over here too. What we are going to simply do is we are saying all the classes inside eShop package should be printing log at info level. See the console at the bottom. Earlier, even though I asked it to print at log.info level, but it did not print. Now we have configured our package to print at this level. If I restart my application, there you are. Can you see? Now my Spring did not print anything. Okay, it's still silently started, but my application now, com sagu eShop products application, is printing stuff at information level. This is just a message 0 1 2 3 4 5. That's exactly we wrote. Plus other stuff is printed because it's a SpringBoot application. So the things which are inside over here, they are printing some information that okay, application started, blah blah blah, all these things. This is how you take control of your application, package level or at very class specific level. Okay, sometimes you have a need like maybe one class you would like to run on a trace level or debug level, but other classes you just want to keep it on error or warn level. Does it make sense? Okay, I hope it does. Now one thing, if you remember from my presentation, I was saying about the log groups. What is log groups? Log groups is very useful feature to group things or packages and give them one name. Otherwise what's going to happen is, let's say I have, I don't know, 40 or 50 packages, right? I have to go individually specify that okay, for this package you give this information, for this package print at this level. What if I maybe like to group things? What I can do is I can create groups such as database, right? So anything which is maybe Oracle database or whatever database I'm using, so I can say take all these packages, Oracle plus my own DAOs, etc., give them a tag. Okay, and later on I would like to control those things using a tag. You can put a few things under Spring, you can put few things under web, you can put your own stuff under certain tags. How do you do that? Let's try it out, then it'll hopefully it will make much more sense. So on a logging level, you come over here, you start to specify group. Okay, you say group, and it's saying Apple. That's quite funny. Okay, so you can give a group. Let's call a group. Maybe what shall we call? Let's call it Spring. Yeah, let's call it Spring. What you can do is in that case, you can say, you know what? Anytime you see org Spring framework, or you see org.springdoc, it's very clever, right? If we did not have this mechanism, what you'll have to do, you have to individually specify the logging level for these things. But now I can put as many folders or packages I want over here, classes, packages, etc. It can be 1 2 20 100, doesn't really matter. There's no limit as such. Also what you can do is you can put things over here. You can say eShop DAO, you want DAO to be printing maybe at warn level. Oh, sorry, we are not specifying the level. We are simply specifying what am I talking, com dot sagu, and I can say look over here, eShop dot DAO. Yeah, I'm saying anything under DAO, just assume inside DAO, if I had multiple packages, I'm saying anything which you see under DAO, group under eShop DAO, but anything which you see under, I don't know, maybe controller. Okay, eShop controller at some certain level, and eShop itself, that might cause issue. So let's keep it like that okay, we are creating eShop DAO, eShop controller, etc. What you can do over here then is, the good or bad thing with YAML is that it kind of creates everything on new line, what I can do is I can remove these things, and I should be able to put with dot, and hopefully it's just gonna work. Instead of me now giving the package names, etc., what I can simply do is I can actually, let's try to create one for just eShop. I hope it works. Okay, my only worry is that it doesn't get confused with the top levels. Okay, so what I'm simply saying is over here, eShop dash DAO. If I see DAO, print at warn level. However, if I see eShop controller, maybe put controller at info level, because we like to see. And I like to print eShop, just eShop at info level as well. I hope that works. Okay, let's restart our application just to try it out first. Okay, it worked. That's beautiful. As you saw, nowhere I'm specifying the package names at the level, but I simply gave under group and it worked. Okay, just to prove, if we go to our DAO, and in DAO, let's say whenever somebody is requesting a product, okay, one more thing while I'm here, you can define logger like this, as you see, logger factory, blah blah blah, all these things. Or what you can do is, if you have Lombok as a dependency, you can simply put SL4J annotation at the top, and then by default you're gonna have a log. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, in the constructor of product DAO, I'm simply saying log dot what did we say at application dot, for DAO I'm saying warn. Yeah, so let's say I'm printing info and I'm saying hello entering. This is not actually info, this is just a debug, because sometimes you just like to put some random stuff just for debugging. Hello constructor, how do you spell it? Replace with constructor. Wow, sometime. But what we said, we would like to print only at warn level. So just to prove that it's only printing at warn level, this is a warning that I have added 3 products only. I don't know, it doesn't make sense, but who cares. Okay, so if I please, warning, yes, come on guys, I know spelling a little bit here. If I restart my application, okay, just notice one thing. Okay, you know what, this damn thing is causing a lot of noise, so let's just print only 2 logs over here and restart our application, because I just noticed quickly it did work, but I wanted to avoid the noise. Okay, so notice one thing over here, we got info from product application, but as far as product DAO is concerned, we got only at warning level. That's what we specified. I said for DAO, just give me warning, even though in my DAO I had a debug, but this did not get print. If I want, I can change that to debug, restart my application, and you will notice that log entry will be coming. Can you see? Debug warn is there. All right, this is really powerful stuff. Let's try to move on. So before we finish, I think the last thing which I wanted to show you was, so this is all the default stuff. Okay, what you can do is you can drop a logback file, logback XML file, which gives you much more fine-grained control. Most of the things you can do over here in the application.yaml file, but sometimes if you don't want to pollute your application.yaml file, you can also use a file called log back Spring, and what I have done, I have renamed to .txt. Now I'm gonna rename it back to XML. So if you drop your XML file, log back XML file over here in the resources folder, this is where it looks basically. You should be able to specify everything over here. One thing, if you like, you can change the pattern, how you printing the message. You can change various colors. You know, I try to play with yellow, somewhere I put probably red or blue, etc. You can specify your log files. You know, you can specify you know, how you like to control for your package, etc, etc. So if you don't want to control things in application.yaml, you can control using logback Spring XML file as well. So if I restart my application now, this file will take the precedence, as you can see already. Okay, one thing you will notice already, now warn is printing in red, error is also printing in red. Earlier it was not red. Plus the format looks slightly different. My message is now in square brackets because this is what I try to do over here, just to prove message is going like that. Yeah. So I hope you understood, like, you know, how logging works in Spring. Oh, my camera has gone very dark. I just didn't notice that light is not on in this room. Anyhow, I hope you like this video, and just play. Okay, I'm gonna check in this project on sagu.uk, so you can check out, you can play. And logging is something like, you know, you have to play. This is how you're gonna learn it. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this session. Please subscribe if you have not. Give me thumbs up and leave comment at the bottom. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.